then we'll start a video here.
Sorry to interrupt your class, sir. I just thought that was rather important.
Thank you.
You only become question mark once a year.
Right, I know. I'm 52, and I'm going to enjoy that while it lasts, because tomorrow I'm 53. And there we have. I've been saying I'm 53 all week, so you know how that goes.
Well, you're going to continue to give Chaplain Brown crap because he's 5 days older than you.
Chaplain Brown is an old man. So go on the record to say
Gosh.
he is an old man, and I'm never going to let him forget it. His birthday is the 15th of September. Mine's the 19th. Here we go. Next slide. I think we're live again. All right, very good. There are many similarities between type 1 and type 2 suffixes. Note that all type 2 suffixes have the yod as part of their spelling. The presence of this yod will enable you to distinguish between the two types. Our horse, Susenu. Our horses, Susenu. Now, this is pronounced the same as that, isn't it? This yod tells you what piece of data?
That it's plural.
That it's plural. That it's plural, right. Now, if you get hung up on type 1, type 2, you may not connect that to actual grammar. But this is a clue that the noun, that the noun is plural.
Sir, so type 1 is singular and type 2 is plural or what? What is the
Yes,
difference between
type 1 is singular, type 2 is plural.
Okay.
Always.
Yes. I don't like the word always in language study
90+.
because I think almost all those rules somewhere is an anomaly or an exception. And we call that, oh, that's an irregular spelling. But always goes a bit too far for me.
Regularly.
Suskem. Suskem. Your horses. That's the horses that belong to Bravo Company. Or Bravo Troop, I guess this is horses. Those are the horses that belong to Bravo Troop. Susechem. I'm sorry, that's the horse. The horse, the horses. Susechem. Plural. Notice the yod. Okay? Notice the new, that's going to tell you first person plural. Notice the kaf, it's going to tell you second person. The mem indicates masculine, and the yod indicates plural. It's not that hard once you start seeing those similarities. But you do need to memorize that chart. Wished I had memorized it first time through. All right, here it is. On masculine nouns, pronominal suffixes are added to masculine plural nouns. The plural ending im is dropped, just like Dan said. In the absence of this ending, the masculine noun is recognizable as a plural only by the spelling of the type 2 pronominal suffix. That's wordy, simple. I just see this as a plural ending because of the yod. Okay? So where it would be susim, Dan asked this very question about a half hour ago. Now it's, in this case, susayik. Susayik. And I get that I sound from that patak, yod, hirik, kaf. Susayik, your horses. See how they apply? They just stick right on the back of the noun. So when you're learning vocabulary, and I'm going to find a noun here. I've got one. There we go. That looks like a regular noun. I've got a noun here. You can't see it from there, no doubt. But it's kaf. Kaf is the palm of my hand or the sole of my foot. You already know. Awesome. Dan knows it. So whose are we talking about? We're talking about kaf o, his palm. We're talking about kaf haim, their palms. Simple, right? You just take that spelling of the noun and apply the ending. And the ending may or usually does include a vowel that goes underneath or after the word, the noun. Not always. There's that always word, right? Feminine singular. K. Susake. Susake. Suso. All good? All right. Be careful to note the important differences in spelling between type 1 and type 2 suffixes. The type 1 suffix is spelled hirik yod. The type 2 suffix is spelled patak yod. E is my horse. How do you remember that forever? Forever. Never forget it. How do you remember it for sure?
Memorize Psalm 104.
Memorize Psalm 103. Baraki nafshi. Bless the Lord, O my soul. You want to go back and look at it? Okay. We can do that. There is the first person singular pronominal suffix on the word nefesh. Nefesh. But it's changed to nafshi because we've added a syllable, a whole vowel. Okay? That hirik yod is a whole vowel. We've added a syllable. This reduces. Remember propotonic reduction? Simple. There's nefesh, soul, self, life, but it's mine. Nafshi. If you remember this psalm, you'll remember the word nafshi. You'll remember that the suffix for the first person singular is hirik yod. Good? Dan's getting it. I hope the rest of you do too. That works for me. That works for me that it's in a text that I know. Okay? Sus-av, or sus-I rather. Sus-I. Sus-I, my horses. There's the plural form. That's the possessive form. They're similar. You could get confused. But hirik yod is nafshi, is personal, possessive. Okay? Feminine nouns. On feminine singular nouns that end in patak he, as in Torah, when they receive a pronominal suffix, the he is replaced by a tet. And so Torah becomes Torot. Think of it like this. He is a weak consonant. You're going to have a lot of weak consonants coming up when we get into verbs. He is soft, it's weak, and it falls off if you put anything after it. In this case, in order to maintain the word, they add a tav. Okay? So Torah is the word you memorize on your vocabulary card. You memorize your vocabulary Torah, law, teaching, instruction. But then when we put on a pronominal suffix, that he has to change into a tav. So Torati, my law. Toratka, your law. Toratech, your law. Okay? I'll teach you a greeting in Hebrew, and that'll help you remember these two. A greeting in Hebrew. If you greet a man, you say ma, as in how or what. Shlom, ka, ma shlom ka. How are you doing? It's the word shalom, to be at peace, right? How peaceful are you? It's how are you doing? That would be the idiom. Ma shlom ka. But if I'm asking Carolina, I'm going to say ma shlom mech. Ma shlom mech, because I'm asking a female. So it's feminine ending, depending on who you're talking to. You don't need to know that, unless you want to talk to some folks in Hebrew. And they'll be very happy that you know a word of Hebrew, ma shlom ka, right? They'll be very impressed, I'm quite sure. Having traveled in foreign countries, let me say, if you make an effort, no matter how bad, then it's appreciated. If you try, my Spanish vocabulary might be 25 words now, because I've been back from Puerto Rico for a couple years. It was probably 300 words when I was in Puerto Rico. And I communicated fairly well, and people helped me along because they knew I didn't know what I was trying to say, and they were appreciative that I respected them enough to try to speak to them in Spanish, even though almost everybody on that island spoke English. But that was not their language of choice. They're speaking to one another in Spanish. The menu would be in Spanish, sometimes Spanish and then English underneath. And so if you try to speak a little Spanish, at least in Puerto Rico and other places I've been, people appreciate the effort. So a little modern Hebrew will not hurt. Let's take a look at a couple of these. Tell me what you can identify that is consistent. What do you see here? What does the yod tell you? Plural. Awesome. How about here? What do you see here? Torat ken. I'm sorry, Torat ken. Torat ken.
Cough.
The Kaf says it is
Second person.
second person. Okay, if you get that, it's going to make this much easier. If you do not learn pronominal suffixes, you will struggle to translate the Hebrew Bible, and it will be unfixable until you go back and learn this. Right? So I just want to encourage you. I'm not going to tell you to memorize rules any more often than I have to. I'm not going to tell you to memorize charts any more often than I have to. When we get into verbs, there's a couple that you've just got to know because everything is based off of those. But just a couple. I didn't learn Hebrew this way, but I'm told the old way was you memorize paradigm after paradigm, chart after chart for every verb, and you had to learn all the forms, and it was memorization heavy. And that's why it takes so long to get through, rabbinical school, yeshiva. Because they memorize so much. I want you to learn what you have to learn and memorize Scripture so that when you look at Scripture, you'll be able to read it. Okay? Let's go on. Everybody understand, the hey turns into a tav at the end of a feminine noun. Good. Please don't ask me why. It just does. All right. This noun, Torah, is easy to identify as a plural. Unlike masculine nouns, which drop the diagnostic plural ending im with the addition of a pronominal suffix, the feminine nouns retain the plural ending ot before a suffix. Toroteka. Toroteka. It keeps the plural, feminine plural ot on it, unlike the masculine nouns. Okay? Before suffix. Additionally, the echa is type 2 suffix, so now you know it's plural two ways. The ot is still there to tell you it's plural, and the a is still there to tell you it's plural, which further identifies the noun as plural. That's correct. Everybody understand this? Toroteka. Toroteka. Andrew, you look bored. You hanging in there?
No, I'm good.
All right. Spelling changes in nouns. Why are we doing this? Okay. Lexical form of this noun, davar, when you add the suffix, it adds a whole vowel. Okay? And so now, this is 3 syllables. That's davar and davarim. Divari. Divari. Just like if you pluralize it, you have to reduce the first syllable. In this case, divari. Davar, div, re, hen. Divrei hen. Bayit. Beit ka. Beit ka. Just have to see that. If you recognize the pronominal suffix and you recognize the letters, not vowels, the letters of the word, you should be able to say, oh, that is an inflected form of the word davar. An inflected form of the word bayit. Beit cha. There's all the letters are present. None of them have dropped out. Mavet mot o is death. Your house, their words. Okay, let's read a paragraph. Despite these vowel changes, you should be able to identify most nouns, what I just said, with the pronominal suffix. If you memorize all the type 1 and type 2 suffixes. 2, build a frequency vocabulary. And 3, become familiar with the use of a standard lexicon and the format of noun and preposition entries. There are 2 reasons why today's the day that I gave you a lexicon and vocabulary cards. Reason number 1 is I wanted to see how many people were going to stay in the class. I didn't want to buy unnecessarily lexicons and vocabularies for people who did not continue. And like I said earlier today, this is our class. The other reason is this right here. The vocabulary cards are not in alphabetical order, or they shouldn't be. They should be in order of frequency. So vocabulary card number 1 should be the word that is most frequently appears in the Hebrew Bible. And, ma'am? Now that would be maybe alphabetical. What is the first word in your box?
And.
Vav.
Vav.
It's just the
Oh, really?
the conjunction vav. Yeah, I believe that's probably the most frequent word in the Hebrew Bible. You're going to see that in every verse. So yeah, that makes sense, doesn't it? What's the last word in your book, in your box? If you guys haven't opened the plastic, it's okay.
Canaan.
Huh?
Canaan.
Canaan. So there's 1,000 words in that box. That word hypothetically would be the one that appears the 1,000th frequency.
It
So-
says on the bottom right here, 93 times.
93 times.
Oh my.
Okay? So that means you should have in your hand a vocabulary card for every word in the Hebrew Bible that appears 93 times or more. If you learn those 1,000 words, you will read Hebrew with no problem. You will read, right? If you learn those 1,000 words, you will learn you will read Hebrew no problem. Because when you come across a noun that you know in its lexical form, what's the lexical form?
Like it's 2, 4.
The form that it's in the lexicon. What's a lexicon? It's a dictionary. Biblical Hebrew in plain English. The dictionary form of the word as it's found in your dictionary, then from there you're able to construct in your mind what has happened to the word. That's davar, but what's this? Well, something happened to davar. Oh, there's a pronominal suffix on there, davari, my word. Okay? So we recommend, we being everyone, recommend that you start at the front of your box of cards with the words that are most frequent, and the lessons do this also. And then as you add, you work your way back through that box. And you'll get to the place where if you know 1,000 words, your vocabulary is pretty healthy. That's about 16%, maybe 15% of the Hebrew Bible. But, words are related by family. The root for one word, for davar, the noun itself, the gloss is word, but it has a lot of meaning. And it has verbal meanings and it has nominal meanings. So you're going to learn a lot more words than just the 1,000 words in your box by knowing the roots. All right? And I digress. Let's talk about your lexicon. Let's talk about your lexicon. Your lexicon is a dictionary. Did you learn the Hebrew alphabet by learning the song that I taught you? Yes and no. If you use the song, you will not have to have a cheat sheet that tells you what letter comes after what letter. Maybe one day you'll be better Hebrew readers than I am. I'm at the first grade. I'm at the second grade level, right? And I require Yankee Doodle when I'm looking through a lexicon to find a word. My challenge is, I don't have a lexicon in front of me, but my challenge is I'll look up the first letter, no problem. And then I'm having to look up what letter comes second in the word, and it's the lexical form, and I have to remember, does kaf come before tet or after? So I sing. Chet and tet and yod and kaf. There we go. It comes after. I'm in tet, I flip forward a couple letters, and now I found my first radical, and then kaf, and then I go find my third radical, and I found my word. Now the words, when they are appear in the masculine, when words appear in the masculine, they will be in your lexicon in the masculine singular form. The lexical form will be masculine singular. When words are feminine, they will appear in the feminine singular form in your lexicon. And they may, if they appear in both, they may not be right together, depending on which lexicon you have. The difference in spelling may actually separate them alphabetically. Sometimes they'll put them together on the same entry. It just depends on which lexicon we're dealing with. Okay, so sometimes you got to have an open mind and put your thinking cap on when you're looking for your word in the lexicon. Now, reading Hebrew is a skill that we're learning. A subset of reading Hebrew or learning to read Hebrew is learning to use a lexicon. You will get frustrated, especially with Gesenius, for a little bit until you learn to do it. Okay? It's just another skill that you need, how to look things up in the dictionary. I don't look things up in my English dictionary very often anymore. But when I was writing fiction in my 20s, I used a dictionary every single day. Right? When I was using it for a particular task, I'd say, is there a better word for that? Am I using this word correctly? And I'd get my dictionary down, and I'd read it, and maybe I get the thesaurus, and maybe I just highlight it or circle it and come back to it later. But I use a dictionary as a tool for writing. We understand that. We had to do it in school, right? So I'm not bothered by or threatened by having to use a tool to learn to read Hebrew. The day will come when I will not need my lexicon very often at all. The day will come when I'll be able to sight read most passages of Scripture. I had to be in early this morning, and my alarm did go off, but it went off silently. What's that about? Yeah, my phone says my alarm has been ringing for 11 minutes, but it's not making any sound. Yeah, so I was a little time crunched this morning, so I didn't translate the first 2 verses in the book of Numbers. But after I read the first 2 verses real quick, I just pulled it up and just looked at the Hebrew after I'd read them in English. And I was like, oh yeah, I can see how that Hebrew sentence is formed. This is the discipline that I'm pursuing, and I hope that you will pursue, to where use the tools available to you, lexicon being one of them, vocabulary cards being one of them. There are some online tools that are fantastic. I got a stack of books I can recommend to you, but we'll get there as we get there. Okay. First, learn a vocabulary. Use the lexicon to learn vocabulary and to figure things out. And the more you're able to do a little, what Dr. Barrick calls a little Hebrew CSI, right? A little crime scene investigation. What happened to this word? How did this word become betka? Well, we added a pronominal suffix, and so that necessitated a spelling change. You don't have to be able to explain why the morphology is what it is. You don't have to be able to tell me the reason why every vowel, I mean, one day maybe you can, but at this level, just know that betka is spelled differently because we've lengthened the word by a syllable. And so the vowels adapted. Everybody good? Congratulations. Enjoy your holiday lexicon. It's not exhaustive. I think the Hebrew scholar needs a Brown Driver and Briggs or Gesenius or one of the bigger lexicons. But gosh, it's handy. I can get through holidays so much easier than I can get through BDB. BDB is much more difficult, and good reading glasses help in any case. That being said, let's move on. Okay, monosyllabic nouns. Certain singular monosyllabic nouns add heric yod before the pronominal suffix. The addition of heric yod to singular nouns with type 1 suffixes may cause them to be confused with plural nouns having type 2 suffixes. The singular noun paradigm has heric yod, I can barely see it, achika, your brother, achika. The plural noun paradigm varies its vowel, but is never heric yod, achecha. Okay. So they're telling you to be cautious because here we've got ach is a word with one syllable. Ach, everyone know this? Brother. Okay. We add achi. That's my brother. But achcha is almost impossible to say. Right? If that heric yod hadn't been there, it would be super hard to say, wouldn't it? And so I think that, just guessing, this is adapted that they retain that yod or put that yod in there to make the word easier to pronounce. Achicha. Achicha, your brother. Achicha, your brother. Okay? Achichek, your brother, if you're talking to a female. Aki. How would you say that? Wow, that's going to be tough. Achiv. Achiyah, her brother. This one should be easy, right? Achinu. Achichem. Should start to look familiar to you now, the pattern. Okay? Look for those characteristic consonants. Know that in a monosyllabic, that a word with only one syllable is required to stick the heric yod in there, I think for pronunciation's sake. Type 2 suffixes. These are plurals, right? Achai, my brothers. Achecha, your brothers. Now pay attention to that vowel as opposed to this vowel. This heric yod will not appear in the plural. Let me say it again. The heric yod on a monosyllabic noun will not appear over here with the plural. You've got sagol, you've got patak, you've got sere, but we don't have heric yod. Everybody good? All right. When a preposition takes a pronominal subject, they are objective. They indicate the object of the preposition. I know, that's perfectly clear to me. Is that clear to you? So if we say this preposition la, it has about 19 meanings, but for class it means to. If the preposition la means to what or to whom, and we put a pronominal suffix, we know the answer. To you. Lacha. Lacha. Psalm 27. My foes and my enemies. It's Sarai va'oyevai li. The foes and the enemies of me. My enemies. It's possessive, right? I'm sorry, it's objective. That's not the best example, is it? Alecha, on you. Okay, we know al, on, upon, over, against. And then echa says you plural. So that war might rise up against alecha, upon you. Right? The COVID might be upon at you, the people of the United States, or you, the people of the world. It might be alecha, right? It might be here. We have to deal with it. So see how the suffix identifies what the preposition is pointing to. What is the object of the preposition. Good. Trying to get away from grammatical language and make it clear. There was a couple of examples. Li, lecha, lach, lo, la, lanu, lachem, lachen, lahem, lahen. Simple, right? Notice. Simple. So simple. Li, it's the same chart over and over. Right? Yeah. It's the same chart over and over. First person, li. Second person, there's the kaf. Third person, o, simple. Third person, her, ah. We got it. Nu, that's first person plural. Second person, kem, right? Second person, masculine plural. Chen, second person, feminine plural. Hem, hen. It's so simple. It's only simple because it's the same material on 20 slides to explain it. I think it's important. It shows you all the different ways that these pronominal suffixes are applied, and not to me, that's helpful, okay? Alai, on me, upon me. Alecha, on you. This would be plural. The object is singular, but the subject, whatever it is plural. On him, alav. Aleha, on her. And you should just be able to hear that that's feminine by this point. By this point, you should be able to hear that that's feminine. Aleinu, that is a super common construction in the Hebrew Bible. On us. You'll see that all the time. Alechem, alechen, alehem, alehen. Questions?
All of above.
Ma'am?
All of the above. The questions?
You have questions about all of them? Memorize this, please. Now, you don't have to memorize it with every preposition. Just memorize how it attaches to a preposition. Okay? Well, they're going to show you probably a bunch of them. Here we go. Kamonu, like me. Kamoka, like you. Anybody ever been to synagogue? You're going to hear kamoka in the Hebrew prayers a lot. So let's just say that you're visiting a synagogue and you're in a worship service and they're singing or they're praying and you hear the word kamoka, which you're going to, and you know that they're talking to God and they're saying there is no one like you. Kamoka. Kamok. Kamoho. I'm sorry. Kamohu. Kamohu. My mistake. Kamohu. Kamoha. You hear the masculinity of kamohu and the femininity of kamoha. Can you hear that now? Is it starting to sound masculine and feminine to you? Okay. Kamonu, like us. Kachem, kachen, like you, like you.
Say how you read the second feminine
Second feminine plural,
Ka,
kachem.
kahem.
Okay, pronounce this how you're able. When I was in the second grade, I lived in Del Rio, Texas. I went to Lamar Elementary School, and I was the only non-Spanish speaker. I was fair-skinned, blonde-haired, and skinny. Okay? I did, and my name was Gringo, and I still don't know what they meant by that. But I couldn't, they, being Mrs. Zuniga, my second grade teacher, she gave me a lot of attention to try to get me to roll my R's. Arredondo.
Ooh.
Now I'm 53. When I was 7, 6, no, sorry, yo, no habla. I could not roll my R. So how you pronounce these consonants that are semi-soft, I'm not going to correct you. I've heard varying pronunciations in Hebrew recordings anyway, but the kaf with the dagesh is just a K. Ka. The kaf without the dagesh has some breath in it. Cha. Kachem. Kachem. If you can't get that sound in there, I'm okay with it. But you're going to hear it. Particularly for me, I kind of overemphasize it in class and in my own because, so the chet and the chaf. The chet can never take the dagesh, so it's always cha. And the chaf without the dagesh is just like the chet. It is kind of in between K and H. The hey is ha. So that would be like no breath or no hardness to the that's just soft, right? Ha. So ka, ha, ha. That's the spectrum of those three consonants. So I would say kachen. That might be more information than you asked for. But we've had the alphabet, and if we're still not super clear on how to pronounce some stuff, I don't mind talking about it. Okay, mean. I guess Psalm 27 is, I was in Psalm 27 recently, even this morning. And so we see that lots of words in my Psalm, and the Psalms are awesome, they're my favorite. It was just never true in English. The Psalms were not my favorite in English. But in Hebrew, oh, it's the most beautiful stuff. It really is. So here we go. This is the preposition mean. What does mean mean? Mean? With? In your chapter 6 homework, you got them all right, so I know you know this. It means from, it means out of, it means some of. From, out of, some of. Men. This is the first thing that we came across in the book that was not in Genesis 1 through 5. Okay? And it means from. Mimeni, from me. Mimcha, from you. Mimek, from you. So Mimcha would be from Dan if I'm talking to Dan. Mimek would be from Yepsika if I'm talking to Yepsika. Mimenu. Yeah, that's from him. I think it should be Mimano, but okay. Not going to argue with Dr. Van Pelt. I think it should be Mimano. I really am. I really do think that should be a Holam Vav. Yeah. Well, we're going to leave it be. Let me look in the book. Maybe it's just an error on the slide.
They're in second masculine, singular, feminine, and also in the plural, like the second feminine and masculine are like the same word.
Okay, so this is correct actually. This is correct actually. It matches the book. It's just me. Mimenu and Mimena. Now, can you see why I might expect the Holam Vav? Okay. Yep, so please ask the question again.
So from the second feminine and masculine singular, like you, like hamok, and feminine is the same thing.
Okay, it's not the same. So the masculine
Yes,
singular
the common is the
is kamocha. Two differences there. Kamocha.
Just
No,
second, say it again.
okay, kamocha. The accent is on the second syllable, the mo syllable, and the cough has a comma. It's kamocha. But the feminine, the accent's on the last syllable, and it's kamok. Kamok.
Come on.
There's no comments there. We didn't add a vowel on this one, just the cough.
You know, it's kind of fun because, like in the second masculine singular, when you read the word, you pronounce the A's at the end.
Well, on this one?
Kamoha.
Not on this one I didn't, but on this one I did.
No, but the,
On mimek, because there's a sere under the mem here. There's not a sere under the mem here because there is a holem vav.
So can you pronounce again the like you feminine and like you masculine? Can you pronounce again?
Which one?
Well,
The
feminine is-
mean,
No, but the singular.
these two.
Yes, sir.
Kamocha,
Wait.
kamok,
Kamo
kamok.
and the
Kamo.
masculine.
The masculine, kamoka, kamoka. Over here, mimka, mimeka. Mimka, mimeka. I'm sorry, I'm getting it wrong. Mimek. Mimka or mimek. Mimek being feminine, mimka being masculine. I guess that's why these charts are on here, because they are. It's not just the preposition and the pronominal suffix. There's a little duplication of this consonant, or maybe they've added in a mem consonant here. So maybe you do need to know these, but you're going to see them often enough that they're not a problem. They're not prohibitive to reading. Once you start to recognize them, you'll start to see them there. Could I use your Bible real quick, Dan?
For 103?
Now I'm going to go to Psalm 27. Right? The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? Sound familiar? 27. The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom should I be afraid? Psalm 27. Evil men approach me to eat up my flesh. It is my foes and my enemies who will stumble and fall. If an army encamps around me, my heart will not fear. If war arises against me, Alehi. Even in this I will be confident. Psalm 27. Adonai ori veyishi mimi ira. Mimi. It's not on there. Because that's mean. That's mean. Mimi is back on a previous slide. I'm going the wrong way. Where is it? Yeah, it's mean. It's just spelled differently. Mimi, of whom should I, from whom should I be afraid? Mimi, 27. Yira. And then Adonai, Ma'oz Kayai, the Lord is the stronghold of my life. Mimi, Efkad, of whom should I be afraid? Okay. Hope that's helpful. But that E ending, it tells me it's first person common singular. From whom should I be, of whom? Which of these should I be afraid of? Right? Remember that some meaning, some of meaning of mean? Which of these should I be afraid of? Okay, I have embarrassed myself on camera several times today, but I'm okay with that. All right. The direct object marker takes type 1 pronominal suffixes and is translated as a personal pronoun in the objective or accusative case. I don't think it's helpful to use the word accusative, except for maybe it might help Andrew. Yeah, he says, hey, I'm glad it's there. The English doesn't have accusative, so I wish they wouldn't do that. That's from another language. Zakar otam. Zakar otam. That's a verb to remember. It means in this form, the lexical form, in fact, he remembered. Otam. Who's brave? Heidi looks brave. Who's brave?
I'll be brave.
Andrew's brave. Andrew, pick up your lexicon and look up Zakar, just as you see it spelled. Anyone else who's brave can do it along with us. Heidi says, I can do that. That's right. Oh, it's her book already. Zakar. Now, I'm not trying to teach you verbs. I'm trying to teach you lexicon.
Okay.
Okay?
Do you want the page number?
Mm-hmm.
89.
Page 89. Read the definition for us, please.
Well, there's multiple definitions.
Just read the first one.
The first one that I see is a cal verb, and it means to mention.
I have to remember,
To remember.
to recollect.
He's got mention as his first definition and remember as his second definition. In the holiday, the word that is in bold-faced type is like the gloss definition, the basic definition. And you might see 2 or 3 or 4 of them on there. How about Gesenius? What do you have?
To remember, to recollect, to bring to mind.
Very good. Zakar. Okay, so Gesenius puts it in the English infinitive, but this should properly be translated, he remembered. Your vocabulary cards, I hope, will have a he remembered form. But don't worry about that. What I want you to be able to do is look it up in the lexicon. And everybody found the page, right?
Yeah, wait. So, but I have this Alvarez with this.
There's also the card here. And then these are all the different pieces and mention the number right there.
Okay, yeah, here, okay.
The weird thing about Hebrew is it has different dot points, so it'll list them different times. So there's a card, there's a card, there's a card, and it lists them all at once.
Okay, so if you learn Zakar on a vocabulary card, you're going to learn just a gloss, like a one-word definition. You have to be able, number one, to change that definition based on person, number, and then sometimes, almost always, a Hebrew word has a little bit more meaning than just that English gloss. And so you'll find, like he said, mention is the primary definition in a holiday for Zakar. It's not in Gesenius, and I don't think it is on the vocabulary cards either. But this is not about teaching you verbs, it's about teaching you lexicon, how to look something up in the lexicon. Okay, very good. Now, back to the slide. Zakar, he remembered Otam. See the direct object marker. Aleph Tate. I'm sorry, Aleph Tav. Aleph Tav. There's the direct object marker. And I know it's usually et or eight. In this case, it's ot. Don't worry. That's still the direct object marker. And then we have this masculine plural ending. Zakar Otam. He remembered them. He remembered. What's the direct object? There's a direct object marker. That's the direct object. But this case, it's only the suffix. So it becomes a pronoun. He remembered them. Everybody kosher? All right. Shouldn't say that, should I? I should not say that. Oti, otka, otak, oto, ota, otanu, etchem, etchen, otam, otan. Okay? The preposition, that's the direct object marker. The preposition with, I didn't read the paragraph, but I can tell you what this says. The preposition with looks like the direct object marker, doesn't it? This can be frustrating when you're drilling vocabulary cards, and you just kind of do them from memory. Whatever comes up first, you see Aleph Tav, and you go, oh, that's the direct object marker. And you turn it over, and and it says with. Well, with is also spelled olive top. And with the pronominal suffixes, want you to be able to notice the difference. What's the first difference you see over here?
The doggish and
The
top.
doggish. Bam. That's right. The direct object marker will not take the doggish. One more time. The direct object marker will not take the doggish. That's how you can distinguish them. Now they are spelled a little different here and there. No, not. They're exactly the same all the way down. Well, they are spelled different. There's a different vowel there. Et, itka, itak, ito. Okay? Eat is probably a clue also that that's with. But for sure, that doggish will set it off. Questions about that? Sometimes you'll translate, and if you're like me, and maybe you're smarter than me, you won't have this problem. If you're like me, as soon as you see a word and you think you know it, you'll write it down. That's why I translate and pencil. Because I write down the wrong word sometimes. I look at it, I think that's the word. It happened to me yesterday. I can't remember what it was. But I can't remember what it was. But I those consonants are actually two different words. And I just knee-jerk reaction wrote down the first one. And it almost worked in the sentence. And that was my clue that it was wrong. That it didn't really work in the context. And the context is going to tell you that you might mistake this for this. You might mistake ota for ita. Why? Because nobody's memory is perfect. If you memorize them all, memorize everything on all these slides, awesome. But if you did mistake this for this, context is going to help to clue you in that it can't just mean her, it has to mean with her in this context. Does that help? Good. Almost done here. I know we went over because of the cake. Let's keep on cooking. All right, good. All right, im and look alike, don't they? What is im? Somebody loud?
With.
With. Im is a Hebrew word. It means with. What is
People.
People. That's an easy mistake that you could make and cross those words up. But look how they look with suffixes. Im, with me. So that's objective, isn't it? Im, with who? With me. Me is the object of im, with me. I'm the object of it. Imcha. Now over here, they're possessive because is a noun, not a preposition. Got it? Possessive. Nouns with pronominal suffix possessive. Ami, my people. Amcha, your people. Amchem, your people. Everybody got it? Nah, pretty good. So that just know this might trip you up in a text. In a Bible text, you might get tripped up and think that it's my people, but it's really with me. And context will help you, but also notice the spelling is a little bit different. The patak versus the hearing. And maybe there's another difference in there somewhere, but I don't see it. That's it. Okay? This should be the last slide. Summary chart. This is the master chart for pronominal suffixes. Okay? Type 1 and their alternatives. Type 2 and then translation value based on whether it's possessive or objective. So I think I'm going to do it right now, lest I forget, and email you these slides. You like that idea? All right.
I do.
Let me see if I can do that off camera. Andrew wants me to give homework off camera, or on camera, but